Good evening. Good evening, folks. Thank you for joining me. 10 o'clock in the UK and what would it be, 5 o'clock on the East Coast? A little earlier on the West, what, 2 p.m? Something like that? 1981. Hey, Neil. He's lit up. Rubber Gorilla masks are in the house. Neil, who created this work of art for me here. We both go back a long way when it comes to carving turnips on Halloween. And that's exactly why that's sat there. Rubber Gorilla Masks, folk. Check him out on Instagram, YouTube, all over the internet. Does some amazing work. And he kindly gifted me this mask a few months ago, which I'm so proud of. And will always sit there behind me as a reminder of my youth. And Neil's youth as well. What else have we got? Turnip bros for life, he says. Turnip bros for life. We didn't have pumpkins in West Yorkshire, so we had to carve turnips. John Jones says that turnip jack-o'-lantern is just so cool. He did such an amazing job on that mask. He did. He absolutely did. Obviously, honestly, I can't get over how proud I am of that thing. It's just amazing. How's everybody doing? 1981, such a cool year. What an amazing year for horror. And there was over 150 horror movies in 1981. And I just had to I had to get rid of a few and carve it all down to just 20. And we're going to vote on those tonight. And I gave you all a taster of what they're going to be. So, and I know some of you actually were trying to work through them all. Marisol, she was messaging me during the week and saying, I've watched 3 of them now I've watched 4, now I've watched 5. Wow, it's dedication for you. Thank you so much, Marisol. I shall enjoy your contribution to this. And you know what, I'm going to try and add a little something extra each week to this. Like I've done the little intro video there, I'm going to try and do that for, each week, just a little intro video to kind of give you a taster of what's going to come in the episode. And also this week, I'm going to vote myself as well. I'm actually going to vote myself, and then afterwards, you can see exactly how I ranked them. So that's a new thing that someone pointed out to me that I kind of figured out, but I didn't want to sort of take on too much at once, if you know what I mean, because it is quite a fingers and thumbs job, is this. You've got to worry about music, audio, picture, chat, the votes, the countdown timer, the facts that I'm going to read out, all that kind of stuff. So it can be a little bit a little bit sort of a juggling exercise. But like I say, slowly, each week we'll add something in. I think at some point as well, what I want to do is to make it even more interesting is each film that we talk about, add in the trailer as well, or a TV spot or something like that. So you can just sort of refresh your memory as to what that movie was like. Okay, let's see who's in the chat before I continue. And thank you so much to everybody that watched the last episode, 1980 as well. I think it's closing in on like 900 views or something, which is just amazing because live content doesn't get pushed out as much as when you do pre-recorded stuff. So for 900 of you to have watched that video, and for, how many are in here at the moment? 42 are in here at the moment. We've only been live for like 5 minutes. 42 of you are in here. That's superb. Okay, who have we got in here? So we have Chester, Shamrock, The Shape 78, Duke Fleed, Tony Four Eyes is here. Who else? Marisol's here, Jay Diamond, Neil, Rubber Gorilla Masks, Brandon Collins. Hey, Brandon. Chester's here. Rick M. Danny Horror. Shape 78. Myers Mad 316. Daz is here. Plenty of people. Paul's here as well. How are you doing, Paul? Kingslayer's here. Feast Your Peepers. Colin Murdy's here. Check out Colin Murdy's. Actually, Brandon, can you put a link to Colin's new website, new YouTube channel in the chat if you can find it? It's called Feast Your Peepers. And he's doing some great stuff on some really old classic physical media and that, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. He just did City of the Living Dead today. He did Hills Have Eyes the other day. Before that, he did The Last House on the Left. And I think he started on Fulci's Zombie. So, yeah, I think he's 4 episodes down. They're all really good and informative. And he has some stuff that, you know, you're never going to get your hands on these days. So it's really cool to see. Tony Foray says, can't stay all the show tonight as I have to go to work, but we'll catch up later. No worries, mate. No worries at all. It's going to be here. Shape78 says, I finally hit the notification button so that I don't miss them. Cool. Okay. I need to put the link in the chat. Here is the tier maker link. Let me just pin that so that everybody has access to it. So that's your route to vote, folks. The link has gone in the chat right now. I think we're starting on an American Werewolf in London this week. But let's just have a look. Before we start, let's just have a look at 1981 as a whole and find out what happened in that year. A lot of things happened in that year. A lot of cool stuff. I actually had to take some stuff out because I was thinking, no, we want this to be fun. We want this to be fun. And it was telling me about how AIDS was first diagnosed in 1981 and all that kind of stuff. And we don't want to talk about that. But anyway, MTV blasted off in August the 1st of 1981. MTV launched with the words, ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. The first video played was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. Pretty on the nose, I guess, that one. The first DeLorean rolled out as well. John DeLorean's stainless steel gull-winged sports car started production in 1981. Short-lived in reality, but destined for immortality thanks to Back to the Future. The royal wedding of the century. Prince Charles married Lady Diana Spencer on July the 29th, 1981. Around 750 million people tuned in for that wedding. Basically the must-see TV of the decade. Donkey Kong introduces Mario. Nintendo released Donkey Kong introducing Jumpman, soon renamed Mario, and a legend was born. Was that way back in 81? Like 44 years ago? Wow. The first space shuttle launched. NASA's Columbia became the first reusable spacecraft to launch on April the 12th, 1981, kicking off the shuttle era. Postman Pat hit the UK. This stop-motion classic Postman Pat debuted in September of 1981. A quiet village, a kindly mailman, and Jess the cat stole hearts across Britain. And the Smurfs invade America. The cartoon The Smurfs debuted on US TV in 1981, bringing little blue mushroom dwellers into pop culture forever. And at the cinema, Indiana Jones cracks his whip. Raiders of the Lost Ark premiered in June 1981, turning Harrison Ford into a whip-cracking archaeologist icon. Pac-Man Fever hits the charts. Buckner and Garcia releases the novelty hit Pac-Man Fever in late 1981, climbing the Billboard charts and proving just how deep arcade mania ran. I don't even remember. I know, obviously I was around, but I don't remember a Pac-Man song. Maybe it just didn't make it across the water to the UK. And also Ronald Reagan survived an assassination attempt. On March the 30th, Reagan was shot outside Washington, D.C. hotel, but survived. He later quipped, "I forgot to duck." So that is 1981 before we start on the horror of 1981. That's just to give you a little taste of what was going on around that time for those of you that remember it. But yes, our first movie today is An American Werewolf in London. So the link is in the chat, folks. I'll just paste it one more time live so you guys can all see it. And let's start the countdown. 90 seconds to vote on An American Werewolf in London. Here we go. Release date, August the 21st, 1981. A budget of approximately 5.8 million. Roughly 30 million. Let me just put the screen on so you can see. Roughly 30 million in the US at the box office, 62 million worldwide. A critic score of 89% based on 44 reviews. What else have we got here? Score by Elmer Bernstein. Cast, David Norton, Jenny Agutter, Griffin Dunn, and John Woodvine, who played Dr. Hirsch. Synopsis: the two American backpackers in England are attacked by a werewolf. One dies, the other survives, but becomes a werewolf himself during the next full moon. 40 seconds left to vote, folks. A highly acclaimed blend of horror and comedy, particularly remembered and celebrated for its groundbreaking practical transformation effects and makeup. Academy Award for Best Makeup. It was the first year that they actually created that, that particular category. 20 seconds left. The most memorable moment in the film is the full-body werewolf transformation sequence, a practical effects masterstroke with no CGI, and it remains iconic and influential today. And my favorite personal moment, my personal favorite moment in that film is the Piccadilly sequence, where the wolf is running around biting everybody in sight in Piccadilly. Did we just skip one there? 1 second, 1 second. Okay, so an American Werewolf in London, it has 84% of the vote in first place. 8% of you voted it in second place. 4% of you voted it in third. And one of you voted it in fifth place. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? This is a candidate for number one, and somebody voted last. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay, so let's see what everybody's saying in the chat about this. Let me have a look. Eli Cortez says, don't forget to slash that like button and sub to this amazing channel. Thank you, Eli. It's very kind of you. Paul says the Smurfs were massive, the little blue feckers. Shamrock says, Darren, you left out the most important event of 1981, my birth. There we go. You've mentioned it yourself. Chester says, I wasn't born in 81 nor 80s, but it is my favorite year of horror. Cool. I think it's a lot of people's favorite year. I think 81, maybe 84 as well was a good year. Walking Meatloaf says Michael Myers. Indeed. Good line from American Werewolf in London. Paul says, had a Pac-Man handheld game. There was even a cartoon for some reason. Tony Four Eyes says, this is top tier all day long. Neil says, still the most impressive werewolf transformation with all the tech available today. Exactly. It just looks real. It looks like you can reach out and touch it. It's there on camera. It's fantastic. And John Jones says, probably the best werewolf movie in my opinion, and the transformation scene is just perfect. Those sheep shit on my back, says Michael Myers. Eli says, but is it better than American Werewolf in Paris? Of course it is. Although if you talk to Barry, he may have a different opinion on that. He's a big supporter of an American Werewolf in Paris. What does he know, eh? Shape78 says the transformation scene is the best ever. My only gripe is that I prefer biped werewolves, which is why I love it. Biped? Is it? What are you saying by that? Oh, you mean like on 2 feet? Okay, right. Which is why you love the. Which is why I love the Howling's look. The Howling's look is fantastic as well. I do like American Werewolf over the Howling, and I always have done. But the Howling over the years has gone up in my estimation. The more I watch that film, the more I get this really uncomfortable atmosphere in here in that film. Marisol Joey says, ban them? Ban what? Werewolf movies? Prefer the Howling to Werewolf, says Kingslayer. Yeah, I saw you say that earlier. That really surprises me. Myers Fan 73 says, still amazing effects after all these years. Craps all over these CGI fests. And Myers Mad 316 says, I find it embarrassing that people think 2025 was a great year for horror. When you look at 81, it's not even close. I'd say any year of the 80s beats any of the 2000s. I might agree with that. Okay, let's go on to our next vote. Let me just see what happened with the... We seem to have lost a title. I don't know, but let's just click and see what happens. Okay, The Prowler is next. 86 seconds remaining for The Prowler. You just find the Prowler on my list. 1 second. Okay, released on June the 26th, 1981. You've 69 seconds left to vote, folks. A budget of $1 million, a box office of less than $1 million. Wow, ranked 135th in the US box office for 1981. Wasn't a success. Rotten Tomatoes have it at 75%, and the audience has it at 48%. Directed by Joseph Zito, who we all know did Friday the 13th Part 4. Also did Invasion USA. Vicky Dawson, Christopher Goutman, Farley Granger, Lawrence Tierney, and Cindy Weintraub. 35 seconds left. A masked, PTSD-haunted World War II vet returns to avenge a past betrayals, stalking college students at a graduation dance decades later. Initially a failure, now a respected cult slasher, noted for Tom Savini's effects and haunting tension. A memorable moment of this film is the graphic invented kills and eerie dreamlike vibe elevated by outstanding special effects. Now, I would say that the Prowler, I mean, some of Savini's work in this film, time's up now. You just pause that. Some of Savini's work in this film is absolutely top notch. I mean, the bayonet through the top of the head and the guy's eyes turn white. The girl in the swimming pool when he, you know, cuts her throat, which is equally as upsetting as well. There's also the demise of the Prowler as well, which makes it really finite and made sure that it wasn't possible to make a sequel for this film. Is also amazing. If you remember any of these kills in this film, you'd probably agree with me that Savini was at the top of his game with this stuff. Really was cool. Let's have a look at the chat. The film finishes second in the list here. 27% of you had it in first place. 41% of you had it in second. 23% in third. 9% in fourth. And nobody voted it in fifth. That was out of 22 votes. So the Prowler at the moment sits in second place. Let's have a look at what everybody's saying. Jay Diamond says, I agree with you, Darren, about the Howling. That giant werewolf is crazy to look at too. It is. It's that moment when he grabs that paperwork off the girl when she's going through the filing cabinet and then smashes her over the head. What an awesome moment. Tony Four says, I still haven't seen the Prowler. Do yourself a favor. It's a good watch. As the Shape 78 says, the Prowler is some of Savini's best kills. Michael Meyer says, enjoy the Prowler, but it has a pretty long stretch of dullness somewhere in the middle. A lot of slashers do. A lot of slashers dip in the middle. Like The Burning's got a long stretch of, kind of waiting around for something to happen. I think it's a good 45 minutes before you get to the raft sequence in The Burning. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Kingslayer says, not a fan of the Prowler. Okay. Heroin reminds me of the blonde from Friday the 13th Part 2 in the Prowler. Yeah, I guess so. You mean Amy Steele? Okay. Paul Rose says, remember enjoying it. Have another on Blue. About time for another viewing. Yeah, it was called Rosemary's Killer in the UK. It never came out as the Prowler here until years later. So on VHS, when this first came out, for whatever reason, they decided to rename it Rosemary's Killer. Rick M says, I just watched The Prowler for the first time this past weekend, and it was quite good. Despite a weak ending, the effects were very good. Feast Your Peepers. Colin says, some of Savini's best work. Phenomenal. Michael Myers says, was the cop's hair one of the Savini's effects? Yeah, that was pretty weird, wasn't it? Not as bad as the, and we'll get to it in a few weeks' time, but what do they call it now? The tash on the cop in, I forget, Sleepaway Camp. That was it. Yeah. I mean, that really stands out, does that? Myers Fan 73 says the Prowler's a little slow, but still very underrated. And the UK title Rosemary's Killer is way better. That big UK VHS box artwork is class. Jay Diamond says the Prowler is a great movie. I love mystery in the movie behind the identity of the Prowler. Good stuff. Michael Myers says old UK video as Rosemary's Killer was cut to bits. It was. Yeah, you had to wait a while to see the full uncut version of this. Okay, let's crack on because we've got a lot to get through here. So next one is The Howling. The Howling, 85 seconds left to vote. Let me get my notes on The Howling. Released on March the 13th, 1981. A budget of 1 to 1.5 million and a box office of 17.9 million in the US. Rotten Tomatoes have it at 75%. Directed by Joe Dante with a really cool score from Pino Donaggio. Really like Pino Donaggio's scores. Piranha, Dress to Kill. He did some really good work. Carrie, I think he did as well. Dee Wallace, Patrick McNee, Dennis Dugan, Christopher Stone, Belinda Balaski, Kevin McCarthy, John Carradine, Slim Pickens, and Elizabeth Brooks. A news anchor traumatized by a serial killer visits a resort therapy retreat only to discover it's full of werewolves. Known for blending camp satire and outstanding special effects, Rob Bottin's werewolf makeup, of course. One of the most stylish creature features of its time. The most memorable moment is Eddie Quist's transformation. The transformation into the full beast is a milestone in practical effects horror. Was good, but I don't think as good as Rick Baker's work in American Werewolf in London. Voting's over, folks, and you've put it in second place in tier 1. Okay, so we have 52% of you voting it in first place. 22% of you voting it in second, 9% in third, 4% in fourth, and 3 of you voted it in fifth place. Wow. So The Howling doesn't have, there's a few of you not too fond of The Howling. I think I may have missed out on my vote on this. I forgot to click the button. Okay, never mind. We won't worry about that at the moment. Let's see what the chat's saying about that. We've got 64 of you in here at the moment. Folks, if you could hit the like button, that would really help. That would really help this episode and the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then please consider it. Where are we now? Jay Diamond says the soundtrack was really good for The Prowler 2. Werewolf Thunderdome. 2 werewolf movies enter, 1 movie leaves. Yeah, I think it got, for me, every day. I mean, I love The Howling, but I think American Werewolf in London is stands the test of time better than The Howling does. I mean, there's some great effects shots in The Howling, but there's also some really ropey ones as well, especially when it gets to that moment by the campfire and it just turns into like a cartoon or something. But okay. Kingslayer says, I've recently seen some of the Howling sequels and I liked Howling 3 for being wacky. That's the marsupials, right? The Australian one with, I think even Dame Edna Everage is in that film. Michael Myers says, The Howling was one of the first horror movies I ever saw at the tender age of about 8. Paul Rowe says, my all-time favorite cinematic werewolves and Dante on top form too. Oh, so Paul, you prefer this to American Werewolf? Interesting. The Howling, or as I call it, Werewolves in Heat. The Howling gets better and better upon every view. I found that almost as good as The Howling 2. Sturber, werewolf bitch. Those end credits. Wow. I know that there's a video on YouTube where someone's actually just condensed it all down to those shots and the amount of shots that are in those end credits. It's just one after the other. Bang, 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 bang. Kill Shill says, the American Werewolf in Paris, better than the original in all ways. Shut up. Paul Rose says, the story continues in the Gary Brandner books, unlike the appalling sequels. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I never knew that. Duke says, the only issue I have with The Howling is that it came out in the same year as an American Werewolf in London. That's true. We had, well, the thing is, I think I have Wolfen on here, but something happened when I first started and Wolfen disappeared. So we may not be able to vote on Wolfen. Now, Wolfen, although it's a wolf movie, it's not a werewolf movie, but you had those themes in 1981. And it was also, I think Wolfen maybe came out slightly later in the year and was, I guess with the artwork they used for Wolfen, they tried to sort of cash in on the werewolf theme, and when you watch the film, you'll know that it's not werewolves at all. Okay, let me just have a look. Colin says, absolutely love that change sequence with Eddie in the office. Man, that scared the shit out of me as a kid when I first saw it. Probably first saw it around 82 on VHS. Yeah, those Avco Embassy VHSs that came along. Remember those well? You had the Fog, you had the Howling, you had Escape from New York. There was some great stuff that label brought out. Paul says, you think that's bad? You should see the stop motion werewolves that were cut out on the Laserdisc. Oh, really? Okay. I probably have, actually. I have quite a few Blu-rays of, I think I've got 2 or 3 Blu-rays of the Howling. I'm sure they must be on there. Jay Diamond says, I haven't seen Wolf and Darren. I have it saved on Pluto, though. Okay, cool. Right, let's kick off the next vote. And it is for The House by the Cemetery. House by the Cemetery, which is the third, if I remember rightly, in the Gates of Hell trilogy. Came out in Italy in August of 1981. A box office of 462 million lira, which isn't as much as it sounds. Fulci's most profitable horror film of the 1980s. Critics have it at 40%, audience at 48%. I like The House by the Cemetery. I really do. Katrina McCall, Paolo Malco, Anig Pieroni, Giovanni Frezza. In a New England house with a sinister past, the Boyle family encounters a supernatural horror tied to the previous owner. A doomed estate hiding terrifying secrets. A cult giallo slasher. Would you call it a giallo slasher? I wouldn't call it a giallo slasher. Praised for gothic atmosphere and gore, though pacing and dubbing sometimes draw criticism. Yeah, especially with regards to the kid in the film, I think, a lot of the time. The gory basement scenes with Dr. Fraudstein, they blend grotesque violence with a dreamlike horror in classic Fulci style. Yeah, Dr. Fraudstein looks absolutely horrific in this film. You may have seen a little bit of him in the intro video that I did. He's kind of got this head that looks like it's made of clay with no eyes. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so The House by the Cemetery finishes in second place on the second tier. Nobody voted it in first place. 54% of you voted it in second. 31% of you voted it in fourth. 15% of you voted in fourth. Sorry, 31% of you voted it in third. 15% of you voted it in fourth, and nobody voted it in fifth. Just as I said last week, folks, if you haven't seen a film or you can't remember it, then please just abstain from voting. It makes it so much easier for so we're not getting any sort of fake votes in any way. Okay. Chat room. Awesome 50 says Wolfen is such an underrated gem of horror, so different. Love it. Yeah, I do as well. Albert Finney, who is a gentleman, I can vouch for that, or was a gentleman. I did have the pleasure of meeting him at one point, and he was lovely, absolutely lovely. Jay Diamond says, I've never seen this, so I can't comment on it. Michael Meyer says, The Howling has some of its special features banned in the UK. Has some of its special features banned in the UK? Okay, deleted grape soda. Right, okay, got it. Brandon Collins says, House by the Cemetery gets 1 tier deduction because of Bob. A lot of people are not fond of Bob. House by the Cemetery is so good. I love House by the Cemetery. Paul says, I have to abstain. Probably have seen it, but remember nothing. Daz says, love this film so much I could watch it without the awful dub for the kid. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It didn't bother me too much. Michael Myers says, don't see how it's a giallo, more a gory haunted house movie. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Why Wikipedia and IMDb have it listed as a giallo, I've no idea. I guess there is a little bit of slashing that goes on in there from Fraudstein, and particularly at the start as well. But it is more of a haunted house film. The little boy's dubbing was so awful, says Marisol. Is this one of the movies that you watched this week? Rubber Gorilla Masks. Neil says, I don't think I remember this one, but title sounds familiar. Yeah, you would remember you'd remember the artwork. The artwork that I've got up here is slightly different to what we got in the UK, Neil, but I think you would remember it from UK video shops. And then again, Colin's saying, great film. Only annoying thing is the dubbing on the kid's voice. Christ on a bike. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. Okay, let's kick off the next vote. And it's for Funhouse. Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse. Released on March the 13th, 1981. Approximately 2 million budget with a box office of 7.9 million. Mixed to positive reviews, praised for its atmosphere and cinematography. Directed by Tobe Hooper, as we said. Music by John Beale. Elizabeth Berridge, Kevin Conway, William Finley, Cooper Huckabee, Miles Chapin, Largo Woodruff, and Sylvia Miles. 4 Midwestern teenagers at a carnival become trapped inside a haunted funhouse after witnessing a murder and are stalked by a deformed killer. A cult favourite among Hooper's work, celebrated for its dark carnival ambience and performers, though considered minor compared to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, I don't think it's his best film. You know, it's no Poltergeist. And the most memorable moments are the creepy ambience of the funhouse ride suddenly becoming lethal. Hooper's atmospheric tension shines through it in the setting's dark corners. I did remember to vote this time. Currently sitting on the middle tier, which I think is really where it belongs. Gunther, isn't it? The name of the killer in this film. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Time's up, folks. Time's up. Let's have a look where it finished. It finished in the middle. 12% of you voted it in first place. 24 in second. 53 in third. And 12 of you in fifth place. Myers Fan 73 says, love the fun house. Great effects, great atmosphere. Yeah, I kind of like it when he sort of takes the whole thing off and, you know, reveals himself. Kingslayer says, you sure it's not Funhouse with Pat Sharp and his mullet? There's a lot of people here where that's just going like that. I know it. Michael Meyer says, fun fact, the actor playing the killer was the clown that got shot in the nightclub in Scarface. Really? Okay. Interesting. Myers Mad 316 says Sean Clark would vote this top tier to get his collection costs up. Yeah, no, I know Sean's a huge fan of it, isn't he? And to be honest, as a slasher film, there's not really hardly any gore in this film at all. Jay Diamond says, I just saw this for the first time a couple of years ago, Darren. I'm not a big Tobe Hooper fan, and this movie did nothing to make me clamour for his movies. To be fair, this is actually one of his better movies, I think. Dear, where Paul says, think I have this, but pretty sure I've never watched it. Not a massive Hooper fan, to be honest. I think Poltergeist was due to Spielberg's influence quite a bit, yeah. Although in some circles that's fighting talk. But I agree with you, Paul. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Where are we now? We have The Evil Dead. Be interesting to see where this one ends up. Released or premiered in 1981 in the Detroit Redford Theatre. The budget, very, very low, but the exact figure is pretty much unknown. Box office around 2.4 million domestically and up to 29 million worldwide. No Rotten Tomatoes score, according to this. Sam Raimi directing. Synopsis: a group of friends encounter demonic forces in a remote cabin, unleashing gore and chaos. Iconic cult classic and gore horror milestone, praised by Stephen King and influential for its groundbreaking style. 30 seconds left, folks. 35 seconds left. The innovative, relentless gore, tension, and creative use of camera and effects set a new standard in horror. I love this film. I do. I mean, for a long time, I actually preferred the second film. But when you go back and watch this after all the numerous versions we've had where they've cleaned it up and it looks fantastic, I think it's better than the first than the second movie, I think. Okay, time's up. Whoops. Skipped on to the next one. You voted it second in the first tier. 63% of you voted it for the first tier. 25% of you voted it in the second tier. 4% of you in the third. 8% of you in fourth, and nobody voted it in fifth tier. Folks, I'm just going to post the link to the voting in the chat again. So anybody that hasn't yet joined up to vote, we have 48 people voting at the moment. There's 70 of you watching right now. So if anybody does fancy jumping in, it's not too late to click on the link and cast a vote. The next round of voting will start in a couple of minutes when I've just gone through a few more of these chats. Let's see what's being said. Duke Fleed said, this one scared the hell out of me when I first watched it as a teenager. Michael Myers says, first Evil Dead is my favorite. Everyone else seems to be the sequel. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's what one you were sort of, you saw first out of the two. I mean, like, I think I saw it took a while for me to see the first one. I did see the second one first. When I did finally see the first one, I was still a fan of the second one more. But over the years, I've come to appreciate the first one more than the second one. The second one kind of gets a little annoying in parts, I think, now. Just the comedy aspect of it, I think. And I love the look of I can't remember her name now. What's her name in the fruit cellar in the first film? The look of that face peering through the trapdoor is just chilling. So much more unsettling than Henrietta in the second one. Shape 78 says it set the template for the cabin in the woods trope. Darren Page says, I love Evil Dead, one of my favorite horror movies. David Doherty says, hands down, the most consistent horror franchise. I think I would maybe agree with that. I think they're all pretty decent in their own way. Evil Dead, wow for the budget epic, but in the franchise, definitely towards the bottom. Evil Dead 2, while really a remake of Evil Dead, is so much better. Great movie, though. Interesting. Myers Fan 73 says, I like the video nasty history of the Evil Dead more than the actual movie. Okay. Yeah, they ended up in Snaresbrook Court defending themselves and won. Paul Rose is a classic and very entertaining. Watch this pre-cert on VHS at 10 years old in the dark with a log effect fire on. Dad says I prefer the sequel these days, but Evil Dead is more of a classic. Awesome 50 says Evil Dead is an absolute classic. Saw it on the big screen as part of the Video Nasty season at my local cinema in the UK recently. A great experience. Oh, cool. That is cool to see this on the big screen. John Jones says Evil Dead has grown on me, mostly because my brother-in-law had me watch it multiple times. And Neil says, this along with Texas Chainsaw Massacre were the forbidden films we talk about in the schoolyard. Yes, this was the poster boy for the Video Nasties. It was. I remember people talking about this at school, and it was difficult to get hold of because it was taken off shelves. Everybody's, oh yeah, they're wandering around with a spade, taking people's heads off. And you just heard all these kind of little kind of nuggets of moments from the film. And it was great watching it for the first time and seeing all these moments that you'd heard about. Justin says, much prefer the original Evil Dead to the sequel. That woman in the cellar was killer. Second one I almost shut off when he thought his own hand. Too much shouting. Okay. Let's move on to our next one, which I believe is The Entity. Now, The Entity is a little bit of an anomaly here because although it was made in 1981 and screened in 81 in some areas, it wasn't actually, I'm told, theatrically released until 1983. Budget of no, but we're going to include it in here anyway. Budget of between 9 and 10 million, so it's quite an expensive movie. Box office of around 13.3 million. Sidney J. Fury was the director of this. Cast Barbara Hershey and Ron Silver, I believe, was in it. I couldn't remember his name then. Ron Silver. A single mother experiences violent S&A assaults but by an invisible entity in her home. Confronting trauma and disbelief. Praised for Hershey's performance and its disturbing premise, controversial but meaningful in its psychological horror approach. Its graphic, unnerving attack sequences and the blending of real trauma with supernatural terror are some of its memorable moments. Yeah, there's some really nasty moments in this film. Frank and I did actually do a best and worst of this. It was quite difficult to talk about. And voting's up. We're in third place with this one. First place in the third tier. 11% of you voted it in the top tier. 22% of you in the fourth tier. 61% of you voted it in third place. And just one of you, 6% of the vote, in fifth place. It's a tough film. It's not one that I think that I mean, I've seen it 2 or 3 times, but it's not one that I could pop in and watch like I do The Fog or something like that. It's too traumatic for that. Where are we now? Didn't Sidney J. Fury do Superman 4, if I remember right? I think he did. This was the one Mary Whitehouse zeroed in on for some reason, says Michael Myers. Daz says, gotta thank dentists for Evil Dead getting made. Yeah. Myers Mad 316 says, it wasn't hard for the man selling tatties from his van on a Saturday night, Darren. Tatties from it, but potatoes from his van. What are you talking about? Paul Rose says, well, it definitely had the nasty stuff like the pencil in it when I saw the VH. Okay, fair enough. Right. Yeah, the pencil scene in Evil Dead's brutal. Kingslayer says, I love The Entity. Reese says, I love those stop motion effects on the ankle. At least I think it was stop motion. Yeah. Was it stop motion? I'm not sure it was. I think it was pretty much a quick shot. She breaks the pencil off in there. It was probably a prosthetic, I think. Dad says, very unnerving film until it gets kind of ridiculous near the end. Oh, The Entity? Yeah, when she's kind of in that sort of test room. Yeah, it's odd, is that moment. Jay Diamond says, once again, I never saw this, Darren, so I don't have an opinion on it. That's okay, mate. No worries. The special effects were crazy with The Entity attacking her in her bed, says The Shape 78. Yeah, that kind of full body prosthetic they made of hers where you could see the sort of indentations on her as she's, obviously being attacked. Michael Myers says The Entity is awesome and scary, just gets a bit silly at the end. Yeah, it does. That final sort of sequence in that monitoring facility, I can't remember what it is now. It's like a lab that they're in. Does get a bit daft, considering it's supposedly based on a true story as well. Awesome 50 says The Entity freaked me out when I first saw it. A solid experience with an impressive performance by Barbara Hershey. Okay, let's move on to... let's have a look here, see if anybody... Oh, okay. Let's move on to the next vote. And it is The Burning. One of my favorite slashers, this film. It is a bit of a slow burn, but the payoffs, I think, are great in it. And I think Cropsy's such a great slasher. Released on May the 8th, 1981. Directed by Tony Maylam, who was a British TV director. Quite a posh British TV director. If you listen to the commentary on The Burning, it's quite fascinating, actually, listening to him. You never believe he'd be associated with a film like this. Budget of 500,000 and a box office of just under 1 million in the US and Canada. So it wasn't such a hit. I think it kind of gained a bit of cult status in the years following. Score by Rick Wakeman, and it is a great score and very Rick Wakeman. Apparently, yes, we're going to do the soundtrack originally, but they didn't manage to get them all together in one place to be able to do it. So Rick Wakeman said, I'll do it. Brian Matthews, Leah Ayres, Brian Backer, Jason Alexander, Larry Joshua, Lou David, debut roles for Alexander Fisher-Stevens and Holly Hunter. 20 seconds left, folks. After a horrific prank burns caretaker Cropsey, he returns years later disfigured to exact body revenge on summer campers. 8 seconds left. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. Though critically dismissed as derivative, which, you can understand because there'd been so many slashers out by the time The Burning came out. It has since become a cult favorite for its visceral violence and Tom Savini's special effects. Yeah, the effects work in this. The raft sequence, the look of Cropsey, which I absolutely really do like. He's unhappy with it. He doesn't like it. He thinks that he could have done so much better on this. But there are some great moments with the shears in this film. And it was, again, another one that we ended up having severely cut in the UK after the Video Nasties period. Memorable moments, the fiery disfigurement of Cropsey and the machete scissor gore sequences. Savini's effects work remains standout scenes. Yeah, they're great in this. I think The Prowler is slightly better and Friday 4, obviously. But they are good in this film. It's not peaks of, it's not Dawn of the Dead Savini, but it's still, there is still some good stuff in here. Where did we finish? We finished in top tier. 4th place in top tier. A lot of fans of The Burning. 42% of you voted it for the top tier. 38% of you voted it in 2nd place. 21% of you voted it in 3rd. And nobody voted it in 4th or 5th. So quite a result there for The Burning. Let's have a look at the chat. Reese Wilson said, Quentin Tarantino used a piece of work from this film to great effect in Inglourious Bastards when Hans Landa reappears in the film almost an hour after the film's opening sequence. You know what? I shall watch out for that. I haven't seen Inglourious Bastards for years. I've got the 4K recently up there. I haven't watched it for probably 10 years. So it'll be interesting to see if I spot it this time around because I don't remember that piece of music in there. But I guess I've become more of a fan of The Burning in the last 10 years than I was prior to Inglourious Bastards. Jay Diamond says, The Fog and Christine are my 2 favorite ghost story movies. Cool. Sorry. Right. Reese, are you talking the Entity music? Because that might actually make sense then. Stephen Green says, literally this minute just walked in from Jaws in IMAX. Sound was amazing and picture as clear as Betty Ford piss test. Made up to have finally seen it on the... Was the picture quality not good? Was it out of focus or something? Oh, I see what you're saying there. Betty Ford pissed it. Right, so it was clear. Right, okay. No one's drinking in a Betty Ford clinic. Or they're not supposed to. Michael Meyer says, is it the bit where her ankle kind of spider webs? That was stop motion. Oh, I thought you were on about the pen going in the ankle. Is it a pencil? I think it is. John Jones says, I only saw that. So you're talking to Burning now. I only saw this when TSL did the watch long and I really enjoyed it. Can't believe I never saw it before then. Brandon Collins says Savini really was on fire for about 10 years. Yeah, he actually turned down Friday the 13th Part 2 to do The Burning because he didn't believe that Friday the 13th needed a sequel. The Burning with an unrecognizable Fisher-Stevens. Yeah, Fisher-Stevens, Holly Hunter, Jason Alexander, Leah Ayres. There's a lot of people in this film. Oh, and also Brian Backer as well. The Burning is great. The score was great as well. Definitely a great slasher, says Chester. Paul says, once again, I will have seen it, but don't remember it. Have it on Blu-ray. Add it to the watch list, which is massive. Yeah, it's worth a watch, Paul. If only for the raft scene. It's terrific. I totally agree about The Burning, says Awesome 50. It takes its time, but payoff so worth it. Terrific synth score from Wakeman. Yeah, I actually managed to get hold of it as well. I have a copy of it, which I love the score for this film. Really is cool. The main theme is just brilliant, especially when he starts going mental with his theremin or whatever it is later on. The Burning is a very slow movie, but the characters kept me wanting to keep watching because I wound up getting invested in them. So I gave this film a 4 out of 10. That's like a backhanded compliment there. The Burning is a slow movie, but the characters kept me wanting to keep watching because I wound up getting invested in them. So I gave this 4 out of 10. Okay. Do you mean 5? Cracking effects, great Rick Wakeman soundtrack, and great cast, says Myers fan. Myers Mad 316 says The Burning tops most of the Friday the 13th, to be fair. Wow. That's a bold statement. I mean, I love The Burning, I really do. And it is better than a lot of Friday the 13th movies, but I would say, yeah, I don't know if I'd have to think about that. Did Dick Warlock do the fire stunt in The Burning? I don't believe he did. No, I don't think he did. Myers Man says Tom Savini is best in 81. The Prowler and The Burning. That man cannot be topped for output. Hey, he did some great work. He really did. Oh, Reese says yes. Talking about The Entity. Is it that thumping? I'll stop there. It's that kind of thumping noise that happens in those attack sequences. Brandon Collins says Harvey Weinstein got a writing credit, but I bet that was just him asserting himself and bullying the other writer into sharing credit. Yeah, they talk about on the commentary. They talk about The Burning too, and Tony Maylam, the director, was approached about it, and he decided not to. He decided he didn't want anything to do with it, and so he said, I don't know what happened. He said, I didn't want anything to do with it, and it just kind of went away. But when you watch The Burning, it's kind of like The Prowler at the end. It's so finite, like there's nothing you can really do because there's nothing left of, spoiler alert, come on, they're 45 years old, these films. There's nothing left of the killer in The Prowler. There's nothing left of Cropsey in the end of The Burning either. So it's just like, how do you do another film unless somebody else, like Friday the 13th, they bring someone else in to do the killing. But hey, okay, right, let's kick off the next vote. There we go, and it is The Beyond. So the middle episode in the Gates of Hell trilogy. Remember, we had Gates of Hell movie. We had, what was it called now? Not House by the Cemetery. City of the Living Dead, episode 1. The Beyond is episode 2, and House by the Cemetery is episode 3. So we're voting on The Beyond now. Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. Great movie. Probably one of Fulci's best ones. Released on April the 29th, 1981. Budget of around 400,000. Took approximately 747 million lira. 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. Great score by Fabio Frizzi in this film. Catherine McCall, David Warbeck, Sarah Keller, Antoine St. John, and Veronica Lazar. A hotel inherits dark secrets. It's one of the 7 gateways to hell, unleashing surreal gore and supernatural terror. 24 seconds left, folks. A cult Italian horror classic, praised for its surreal fever dream visuals and visceral set pieces, beloved by genre aficionados despite or because of its loose narrative. Yeah, as always with Fulci's films, they're a little kind of, you come out of them going, huh? But this has a really doom-ladled ending. Okay, violent and surreal gore scenes like the crystal impalement, the tarantula death, and eye mutilation. Stunning in its blend of beauty and brutality. I mean, there's a moment in the end of this. Hang on a minute. Let me just stop that vote there. That just rolled over. There's a moment in the end of this film where I won't say who. Someone gets shot in the head, and the impact of that effect sequence there is just, it's so visceral. It's so like stunning. Like I had to watch it on a like a number of times just to, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like, is this real? It just looks so nasty. But yeah, it's such a great movie. Such a great movie. And like I say, the ending is just, oh. Brandon Collins, straight to the top for the Beyond. Absolutely love this. Reese Wilson said, I'll abstain. Haven't seen this. Yeah, honestly, Reese, give it a go. I mean, give all the 3 films a go if you haven't seen any of them. The Beyond is well worth it. They just brought out a 6-disc box set of the Beyond, which I have on my shelf somewhere, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's like gold standard. I can't even see where I put it at the moment. Let me just see if I can see it. I don't know where it is. It's up here somewhere. But it is absolutely beautiful. It's got the soundtrack in there. It's got like a UHD, a Blu-ray, loads of Blu-rays, DVDs, a ton of stuff on there, which I'll never get through probably. But yeah, stunning box set they've done, which a lot of other boutique labels could really learn from. Duke Fleet said, love the Beyond, but Zombie is a better, more cohesive. It's more cohesive, but I kind of like, I can never decide which one's better. Stephen's talking about Jaws. The lad laughing at the shoreline was even more obvious, though absolutely amazing in IMAX. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Exactly. Feast of, how did this land in tier 3, number 1 for me, a masterpiece? I would have put it in fact, I forgot to vote. I'm going to have to remember to do my own vote here. I would have put it in the top tier personally as well, Colin. I think it's great. I wonder if people were voting for it that hadn't seen it. I don't know. 4 of you voted it in first place. 4 of you voted it in second. 6 of you in third. 1 in fourth. And nobody in fifth. Only 15 people voted for this, so I'm guessing there's a few people that haven't seen this film. Colin, I know. Right bunch of heathens in here. What did Marisol say? Let me just say. Marisol said, I watched 30 minutes of this, then got bored. Should I keep watching? Well, Fulci's films tend to be slow burns, and they all really kick off in the last 20 minutes. So, you know, they have the odd kind of maybe small set piece throughout, a couple of them maybe. But this one really starts to go nuts in the last kind of maybe half hour or so. But it's worth it when it arrives because, again, Fulci's zombies are just amazing to look at. The Beyond makes more sense than City of the Living Dead. I suppose it does. I don't know what you're talking about there. Myers Matt says the Beyond voting is not rigged this time, Darren. Hence, it sits where it belongs. Okay. Yeah, I thought it would be higher. I mean, like, it's better than House by the Cemetery. It's actually finished 3rd place on the 3rd tier. I'm surprised. I really am surprised because it is like his crown jewels. Anyway. Let's kick off the next lot of voting. It did automatically start. I pressed the pause button, but it didn't quite pause. But let's start it again. It's Final Conflict, Omen 3. Sam Neill. Let's see where this one ends up. Let me just find my notes for this. Here we go. Released on March the 20th, 1981, with a budget of 5 to 6 million. I'll just get my vote in there first. Box office of around about 20 million. So it was a sort of, mediocre success, but I don't think it was as successful as the two previous Omen movies. Directed by Graham Baker, Jerry Goldsmith did the score, Sam Neill, Lisa Harrow, Rosanna Brazzi, Don Gordon, and Barnaby Holm. Damien Thorne, now an influential businessman and US ambassador, seeks to prevent the second coming while a group of priests hunt him down. Mixed to negative reviews, seen as weaker than earlier entries, but fans of the series note its expansion of mythos. Damien's rise to power and the eerie climax of religious confrontation. It delivers in sort of end of times stakes. The bit in this that I really remember, voting's over, folks, is when the guy commits suicide and rigs the doorway up for his team to come into the room, and he's got this kind of string around the room, which is tied to a gun. And when they open the door, it pulls the trigger on the gun and blows this guy's brains out. It's horrific. It's a really nasty sequence. But also there's the scene where the mother attacks the I can't remember now, her husband with an iron in his face, a steaming hot iron in his face, which was pretty nasty. It's got its moments, but it isn't as good as the two prior movies. But it ended up third place in the third tier. Nobody voted it in first place. 41% of people voted it in second, 47% in third, and 12% in fifth place. I thought this might have been lower, actually, because it doesn't really have its fans, this film. Going back to Jaws, Reese Wilson says, my mate and I apparently laughed too much during Jaws in IMAX because a guy leaned over during the credits and asked, are you high? Who laughs in Jaws? Excuse us for enjoying ourselves. There is a moment which I discovered the other day. If any of you watch the Daily Jaws, this is quite amazing, actually. So Tim Vine, who's a British comedian, was interviewed on the Daily Jaws website the other day. And they revealed that somebody after 50 years had spotted something that no one's ever spotted before. And I'm not going to talk about Pippet on the dock. It's not that. But in the scene in the town hall, and I talked to Shamrock about this, when Quint turns round and says, y'all know me, as the camera's panning round the room, just before he speaks, if you look in the far right-hand corner of the screen, Brody is on his hands and knees on the floor, and he holds his hand up like that and signals to Robert Shaw to start speaking. And if you blink, you'll miss it because the camera's moving round. So it's kind of like the very far bottom right-hand corner of the screen, just before Quint says, you all know me, you can see Brody scooch down, like right down. And then you see him put his hand up to signal to Shaw to start speaking, because Shaw can't see the camera because it's behind a room full of people. So he doesn't know exactly when he's in shot and when he needs to go. So it's a really cool moment when you understand what's happening. But how no one's noticed it in 50 years is beyond me, because it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you're kind of drawn to it. Oh, Shamrock, shut up. To be honest, I noticed it a few years ago. Bullshit. No way. No way. I thought you might have done. Okay, The Final Conflict is a great movie, says Jay Diamond. My mum was an Omen fan, so I saw this when I was a little in the 80s with her. I love the tension in this movie. It just keeps building and building. It's not bad. It's not bad. I think it's middle tier, as it's ended up. Not a bad movie, says Paul, but I'm not a massive fan of the series. I love the first two are terrific. Love the Omen trilogy. The Final Conflict is not as good as the previous two, but Sam Neill is great as Damien, and that score by Jerry Goldsmith. Jerry Goldsmith is bona fide a classic. Final Conflict until Omen 4. God, I saw that once. That was terrible. That was like The Girl, wasn't it? I think. Although if any of you have seen it, the prequel is really good. The prequel's well worth a watch. I really enjoyed it. Feast Your Peepers Colin says, not just as good as Omen and Omen 2, but a worthy entry. I personally love all three. Darren, that suicide is brutal. It's the foot twitching that hammers it home. Yes, his foot is tapping on the corner of his desk after he's been shot in the head. It's horrible. He's dead, but it's just his nerves kind of taking over. It's a horrible moment. To be honest, Darren, I've known that. Nonsense. You haven't. You never mentioned it before. Hey, everyone. I'm so glad I'm able to catch this one, says Leanna, even if I'm late. No worries, Leanna. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Jay Diamond says, I never knew that about Jaws, Darren. I'll have to keep my eyes open. Yeah, keep an eye on it next time. Myers Mad 316 says, this is the beauty of film. Jaws is 50 years old and still finding new things about it. Paul says, I'll look out for that. Used to have a piece of the Ox Box Lodge where Spielberg and Gottlieb worked on the script. Wow. And Michael Meyer says, in the Beyond, when they get in the lift, Warbeck puts the bullets in the wrong end of the gun and McCall starts to laugh as the door closes. I'll look out for that. Robert Ford says, hi, I'm sorry, I've just realized Scanners is not on the list, though it might be, thought it might be on it, and X-Ray, also maybe The Hand with Michael Caine. Yeah, listen, I could have put 150 titles on here from 1980. Well, the internet gave me 100 horror films released in 1981. It was more, and then asked me, do you want any more? And I was like, no, that's enough. So yeah, there might be one or two that we've missed off here, but you know, I've had to keep it to 20, and I do love Scanners. Big fan of Scanners. I did, mate. I could point out a lot of flaws, continuities. Yeah, I know you can. Okay. Not seen Ferox, will have, but yeah, okay. Right, let's get the voting going for the next one. And it is My Bloody Valentine. Released on Feb 11th, 1981. Came out in Canada 2 days later after that. Budget of 2.3 million Canadian dollars, which was at the time about 1.8 to 2 million. A moderate success at 6 million at the box office, and directed by George Mihalka. Composer Paul Zaza. The end credits vocals by John McDermott. Yeah, the ballad of whatever. The guy who is the killer in the film. I think Harry Warden. Is it Harry Warden? I can't remember now. Yeah, Harry Warden. I think. Yeah. A town celebrates its first Valentine's dance in 20 years, reopening trauma when a heart-shaped candy box and a terrifying legend of a murderous miner resurface. 30 seconds left, folks. Mixed on release was the sentiment, praised for its gore, criticized for lacking originality, but now a beloved cult slasher. Memorable moment, the shocking mining sequence and the gruesome heart in candy box mythos are forever iconic. Sorry, that should have said the shocking mining sequences. 5 seconds left, folks. 3, 2, 1, 0. And we're in top tier. Wow. Top tier. Third in the top tier. American Werewolf is in first place. Evil Dead second. My Bloody Valentine in third. Excellent. I'm a fan of it. I do like the film. I wouldn't have said it. I would have said second tier. But I'm surprised. 64% of you put it in the top tier. 18% of you in second tier. 18% in the third. And it didn't get any votes in fourth or fifth. Folks, if you want to vote along, I've just put the link in the chat again. Yeah, the uncut version of this, if you can get hold of it, is really cool. Oh, Shamrock's bringing up continuity errors in Jaws now. He says, here's one for you. When Quint shoots the barrel into the shark on day 2, you can see the shadow of the camera on the shark as it passes. I've seen that before. God, that's an old one. Cody Decker says, what's up, Darren? Dog, 1981, the year I was born. Excellent. Cody Dog. Brandon Collins says, Isabella Johnny's performance in that just might be the greatest performance in a horror. So great. Oh, in Possession. Yeah, Possession's a good film. Hi, Leanna. Jay Diamond says, My Bloody Valentine is not a bad movie, just a little slow and some scenes are a little dragged out. I do love the look of Harry Warden, though. It's quite classic. Yeah, he does look great in that film. He really does. It's a really kind of iconic look and one that's never been sort of imitated either. My Bloody Valentine, one of the greatest slasher films ever, one that deserved a sequel. Great twist with Harry Warden being dead and the son of his victim being the actual killer. Love it. Yeah. Although we still say the killer is Harry Warden. It's, as you say, his son. My Bloody Valentine would have been a classic if it hadn't been butchered by the Nazis at the MPAA. You can see it now. It's been restored. If you get any sort of recent Scream Shout Factory release of it, you can see all that good stuff put back in. Awesome 50 says, absolutely love My Bloody Valentine. Very creepy. Another classy score. A genuinely excellent slasher movie. Quite enjoyed the remake in 3D too. Yeah, because it has Atkins in it. Who goes? He's the one who gets it through his chin, like the guy in the original, right? If I remember right. I've only seen the remake just the once, I think. Myers Mad 316 says, what a setting for a slasher movie. A fucking mine shaft. Whoever thought of that? Bravo. Yeah, it's all those kids that decide to go partying down there. Whoever thought of that? Shamrock says, just in case you're wondering, I haven't seen My Bloody Valentine. No spoilers. It's too late for that, mate. Too late. Okay, right. That's an interesting one. I didn't know that. When Quint slams the machete into the orca, it's actually a woman's hand. Who was it? Werner? Okay, let's kick off the next vote. And now we're voting for Just Before Dawn. Barry, Wolfman's Got Nards. This is one of his favourite slasher films. Released on November 27th, 1981, to a limited release in the US. A budget of approximately $1 million and a box office of under $1 million, so it didn't recoup its costs. A Rotten Tomatoes score of 60%, 52% with the audience. Directed by Jeff Lieberman. Music by Brad Fidel, who obviously did Terminator, I believe. Cast Chris Lemmon, Greg Henry, Deborah Benson, George Kennedy, and Jamie Rose. A group of hikers in the Oregon wilderness ignore the warnings of a forest ranger and wind up stalked by a backwoods killer. Inbred twin murderers with meat cleavers. 36 seconds left. Mixed reviews at the time, now appreciated for its cinematography and atmosphere, though critics noted it felt derivative, as a lot of slashers do. It's memorable for its haunting forest visuals, including eerie whistling motifs and dramatic waterfall settings, make it stand out among slasher fare. It is really well shot, I'll give it that. 10 seconds left, folks, to vote on Just Before Dawn. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. Just Before Dawn finishes third place on the third tier. Barry's not going to be happy. Hey, Brett. Good to see you, mate. David Dougherty says, I quite like the My Bloody Valentine remake also. Myers Mad 316 says 1981 and 2009 was okay for a 2000s remake, but 81 was the GOAT. It's not even close. I agree. Deborah Hill's hand, says Colin Murdy. Daz says, been meaning to watch Just Before Dawn for over a decade. You should give it a go. It works, I think. It's a good slasher. Jay Diamond says, another one I haven't seen. Yeah, only 15 people voted on this one. Thank you for not voting if you haven't seen it, folks. And Leanna says, this is why I always listen to Park Rangers. Chester says, never seen this either. And Myers Fan 1973 says, after seeing Just Before Dawn on video, I wasn't keen on going into the woods for quite a while. Always great to see George Kennedy. Yeah, George Kennedy's always watchable, isn't he? Whether he's in airplane films or, airport films or Naked Gun, he's always good. Awesome 50 says, never really got on with Just Before Dawn, but feel I need to see it again as it gets a lot of love. It does. It's really kind of, a lot of people have kind of reappraised it, I guess, over the years. And Robert Ford says, I only just watched Just Before Dawn at the start of this year. Not a bad film. It isn't. Folks, 73 of you in here. Thank you for joining me. It's really cool that so many of you have turned up. If you could like the stream, that would really help. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that as well, because we'll be back next Thursday with 1982 to go through all the horror from 1982. And that was a decent year. I mean, just off the top of my head, The Thing, for one, straight away. Feast Your Peepers, Colin says, love me some Just Before Dawn. Still have the original pre-cert VHS and the US DVD. Hope to get a 4K at some point. Superb score also. Hopefully someday it'll get a vinyl release. Yeah, Brad Fidel, as I said. And that I remember that UK VHS. That's the one with the guy stood with a machete with the blood on his face, right? And Neil says, this along with Dark Knight of the Scarecrow were ones I saw as a kid on TV. Yeah, maybe we'll get Dark Knight of the Scarecrow shortly. I think I have it on the list here. Okay, let's start the next vote. 90 seconds to vote on Happy Birthday to Me. So many slashers in 1981. So many. Released on February the 11th, 1981. Oh, sorry, not that one. That's the... Here we go. May the 15th, 1981. Budget of $3.5 million, a box office of $10.6 million. Director J. Lee Thompson, music by Bo Harwood and Lance Rubin, Melissa Sue Anderson, Glenn Ford. Remember, slashers in the 80s, they liked a big name, a kind of senior name, like Leslie Nielsen in Prom Night, George Kennedy in Just Before Dawn, Glenn Ford in Happy Birthday to Me. An elite clique at a private boarding school is picked off by brutal murders around a student's 18th birthday, linked to a traumatic incident from the past. Aren't they all? A stylish slasher hailed for bizarre death set pieces and killer production value, occasionally labelled as weird but praised among genre fans. Just under 30 seconds left to vote, folks. 6 of the most bizarre murders you will ever see tagline is one of the memorable things about this film, and the solo, surreal, giallo-esque kill scenes that punctuate the film. Yeah, there's some really cool kills in this film. Obviously, the shish kebab one, which is on the VHS cover there, or the poster. But also you've got the weightlifting scene as well, which is a pretty nasty moment. And also, I love the ending to this, because when everything's revealed and all the corpses are around the table dressed up, well, not dressed up, but they're all kind of in party hats and everything for her birthday, reminds me of a lot of Thanksgiving. Obviously, Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, I think, took a lot of influence, I think, from Happy Birthday to Me in the way that the sort of final showdown, the final moments were staged. Okay. Eric M says Brad Fidel also did the score for Serpent and the Rainbow. Where did we finish? First place in the second tier. First place in the second tier for Happy Birthday to Me. Nobody voted it for the top tier, but 60% of you voted it second, 40% third, and nobody in fourth or fifth. me put the link in the chat again, folks, for you. For those of you that want to join in. So it's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ranked 6th overall. Interesting. Robert Ford says the best year of horror films has got to be 84 or 85. Okay, well, we'll find out. What I want to do at the end of the 80s is take the top 2 out of each year and then put them all for a kind of showdown in a final episode so we can discover what the best horror movie of the 80s was overall. So the top 2 movies, so basically first and second place in the top tier will go into an episode that we'll do with 20 movies across the years of the 80s, and we'll find out what the best movie is there. Awesome 50 says J. Lee Thompson slasher, enjoy this one, great ending as far as I remember. Yeah, the dinner table scene's great fun. David Doherty says I really like this movie, never seen the twist coming. Jay Diamond says happy birthday to me is a great movie, Darren. I give it 8 stars out of 10 because of the twist at the end. The story kept me in suspense, and that's the reason why I love it so much. Marisol goes, how the heck did she carry all those people back to the house? As a friend of mine always says, whenever I question things, I have a friend at work, he just turns around to me and goes, it's a movie thing. It's a movie thing. That's it. That's all you need to know. It's a movie thing, Marisol. I don't know how she carried all those people back. Rubber Gorilla Mask Neil says, that VHS cover is embedded in my brain forever. Do a top 10 VHS covers. Maybe we should do that. I don't know, because some of the Nasties covers are really great fun. Maybe we should vote on some of those at some time. Myers Fan 73 says, I've never gotten through this. I've owned it on multiple formats. Really? But you've never... So you bought it multiple times and never sat through it. That's amazing. Jay Diamond says, I saw Thanksgiving a few months ago, Darren, and fell in love with it instantly. That's such a cool movie. It is, and it'd be good to see him do a sequel to it if he can get that off the ground. Paul Rose says, excuse me, Valentine I would put second tier. Don't think I've seen Birthday. The VHS had the guy getting skewered in the mouth on the cover. That's right. That's what's happening on the little image there on the screen. Shamrock Balls, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, 84. There you go, Paul. Robert Ford said, remember renting this film in a video shop when I was just 8 years old. Okay, let's kick off the next vote. Halloween 2. Okay, Halloween 2. Directed by Rick Rosenthal and released on October the 30th, 1981, with a budget of $2.5 million, a box office of $25.5 million, so a huge success. Not quite the success the original one was, though. 33% with the critics, 63% with the audience. Music by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, Dick Warlock, Jeffrey Kramer, Lance Guests. What else have we got here? Picking up immediately after Halloween 1978, Michael Myers continues his rampage in the hospital where Laurie Strode is being treated while Dr. Loomis races to save her. 45 seconds left, folks. Divisive among fans, it says here. Some criticize its increased gore and comic book style, while others appreciate expanding the mythology with the Laurie is Michael's sister twist. The hospital carnage and the reveal that Laurie is Michael's sister are one of the memorable moments of this, and the plot twist, well, that is the plot twist, that became a franchise hallmark for better or for worse. Well, they ditched it. It was so much of a hallmark later on. 15 seconds left, folks. It's number 1 at the moment. A lot of Halloween fans in here. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. First place. Oops. Let me just go back. First place with 84% of the vote. 13% of you voted it in second place, and 3% of you voted it in the third tier. So yeah, so Halloween 2 at the moment is leading, and I can't see that there's anything, to be fair, left that will take over it. I think that is pretty much your winner. But let's see. Let's see. There's still 4 movies left, 5 movies left. Actually, yeah, maybe Friday the 13th Part 2 might overtake it. We'll see. But I have a feeling there's going to be more Halloween fans in the chat here. 75 of you watching. Good to see you. Welcome. I'll put the link in the chat if you want to vote. Let's see what the chat is saying. Halloween 2 is the GOAT. End the vote now, says Myers Mad 316. I've always preferred Halloween 2 over the original film, says Rick M. Justin Grace Goodrich says, I love that Carpenter called this an abomination. Exactly. I don't know why he did that. Don't know why he did it. He can call this an abomination, and then goes on to make Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Brandon Collins says, still need to see this one. I bet you do. Robert Ford said, did find out that Dick Warlock, the actor for Michael Myers, was the shortest Michael Myers and wore lifts to seem taller. Yeah, it's true. It's true. He was smaller than Nick Castle. I think Nick Castle was about 5'10" and Dick Warlock was about 5'8", 5'9", I think. But to me, that makes him even more menacing when you have some. I mean, they shoot him well in the film. They shoot him well because he looks taller than what he actually is. Even when he creeps up behind the nurse in the corridor and lifts her up, he still looks incredibly intimidating given his height. And that's testament to, Dean Cundy, who shot this film. He knew how to shoot a smaller Myers, if you like. But I also think that with somebody of, like, I guess, average or slightly below average male height, to have the strength that he does and, to be as intimidating as he is, I think there's something more creepier with that than there is Tyler Mane, for example. He's too much of a lump for me. Or George Wilbur in 6. I much prefer the Dick Warlock, Nick Castle kind of size and stature. Jay Diamond says, this gets 100 stars from me, Darren. It's my favourite Halloween out of all of them. It was the first Halloween movie I ever saw with my mum back in 1990, and I've been a Halloween fan ever since. Good. Yeah, we all kind of, seem to gravitate to those episodes that we see first, I think. And for me, I was lucky enough to see the original 3 years after it came out originally, about 81, and then shortly after this one as well. So it was a good time. Myers-Man 316 says Halloween 78 is the better movie, but H2 for me has better atmosphere. Deshaun says, same, the original bores me for the most part. Really? Wow. Worst wig and horror. It is a bad wig, I'll give you that. Awesome 50 says, I can't help but love Halloween 2, even though I actually get a bit bored with some of the stuff. Love that finale. Yeah, I know what you're saying. For me as a kid, not so much now, but for me as a kid, the scene with the security guard searching all the lockers and everything downstairs, it goes on forever. And I actually kind of like the TV cut version of that because it's shorter and they actually intercut it with Michael stalking him, which you don't see in the theatrical version. Colin says, still the best sequel of the franchise. Oh, I totally agree. Creepy as hell, and I still think Warlock was a great Myers. Yeah, Warlock he was good. Paul says it's way better than some of his later movies. Dick Warlock borrowed the lifts from Kane Hodder, says Kingslayer. Brandon says Jamie's wig is even more noticeable in 4K. That's one of the drawbacks to higher definition. It is. We were watching F1 the other day, which I really enjoyed, and my wife think she could spot where Brad Pitt had a facelift around his ears. It was just showing up. There was like, you could see scars, little scars around the sort of side of his ears. It was a real close-up of him, but anyway. Rubber Gorilla Masks, Neil says, American Werewolf in London is a far superior movie. Now, do I prefer American Werewolf in London to Halloween 2? Oh, that is a good question. I don't know. I think possibly... I've watched Halloween 2 more, but as a film, American Werewolf in London is a better movie. Myers Mad 316 says, agreed, Darren. Just refresh that. Michael Myers always looked better when he was sleek and smaller, so much scarier than the big brute Tyler Mane. Castle has done mocap for the game. I'm sure you know that, though. Yes. Oh, yeah. I think it just adds a little bit of kind of credibility to it, doesn't it, really? Rather than him actually looking and walking like he did 50 years ago. Okay, right. Brandon says, I watched F1 and loved it despite it being completely ridiculous and basically the same film as Top Gun Maverick. Exactly. I did as well. Same director as well, isn't it? I thought it was terrific. I really did. I thought it looked great. It sounded great. It was sexy as fuck. It's just a real workout. If you've got a good TV and a good sound system, it really does test everything. I thought it was a good old 80s, 90s story as well, you know. Really liked it. I love Days of Thunder as well, so that's one of the reasons why I really like this. And Zimmer's score is very Zimmer. Okay, let's kick off with our next vote, which is Friday the 13th Part 2. 86 seconds remaining, folks, for Friday the 13th Part 2. Where would you rank it on here? I know it's a fan favourite. Links in the chat if you want to have a go at voting. Released on May the 1st, 1981. Budget of approximately 1.25 million. Box office of around about 21.7 million. Rotten Tomatoes have this at 33%. Music by Harry Manfredini. Directed by Steve Miner, Adrian King, Amy Steele, John Fury, among others. Returning to Camp Crystal Lake, counselors are stalked and picked off by an unknown assailant, marking Jason Voorhees' debut as a killer. Mixed reviews at release, notable for officially introducing Jason as the franchise villain and setting future series tone. 30 seconds left, folks. The most memorable moment is the first full reveal of Jason Voorhees as the killer, a foundational horror franchise moment. Is it as strong as Hockey Mask moment? I don't know. I love that first shot of Richard Brooker walking in with the hockey mask on. It's terrific. 7 seconds left, folks. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And we're third. Wow. 28 of you voted on this as well. 28 of you voted. 64% of you had it in first place. 21% of you in second place. 11% of you in third place. And 1 of you voted it in last place. But it's actually third place on. This was the only one that I thought would challenge Halloween 2 out of the titles that's left for the top spot. And it's finished third in the top tier there. Interesting. What is also interesting is that nobody thinks any of these movies so far are that bad that they belong in the 4th or 5th tier. We have, however, though, at least one film which I think might end up in the 4th or 5th tier. Let's find out. We'll find out in a minute whether that's going to happen. Where are we now? Stephen Green says Halloween 2 feels like it really is a continuation of 78 And I can easily watch them back to back as one movie, as they both have the same cinematography. Yeah, they blend seamlessly. For me, they do anyway. Friday the 13th Part 2 has grown on me so much, and it will always be fun to watch. The hillbilly look with the potato sack is incredibly creepy, although it's understandable why they ditched it. And Robert Ford says the ending was meant to be a surprise reveal that Jason had killed Paul, indicated by Mrs. Voorhees opening her eyes and smiling, but the shot was cut to avoid a cheap look. You mean her head? Really? Jay Diamond says Friday the 13th Part 2 gets 10 stars, Darren, because it was filmed here in my home state of Connecticut. It was also one of the very first horror movies I saw at 6. I love Sackhead Jason. Cool. That's cool that it was filmed near your house, or filmed in your state. Paul Rose says second tier for me, a good movie, and more rewatchability than the first. Yeah, I agree on that. Liana says a lot of sack maniacs in here. And Kingslayer says I prefer Friday the 13th Part 4 and Jason Lives over Part 2. Definitely for me, though, this is where the franchise begins, I feel. Friday the 13th Part 4 is the best, says Robert. Deshaun says this Jason really was a special boy because, man, was he clumsy. Jay Diamond says, I just got done watching Friday Part 2 down and I just put on Part 3. Cool. Excellent. Amy Steele is now Amy Pulitzer, and she is a shrink in real life. Yeah, and she's actually coming over to For the Love of Horror in the UK next year. In fact, they've announced Amy Steele, Adrian King, and Kimberly Beck, the first 3 announcements of next year's convention in April have been announced, and it's 3 Friday the 13th girls. The film was originally envisioned as an anthology series, much like Halloween, but the popularity of Jason Voorhees led to more sequels featuring him. Okay, cool. And Stephen Green says, Friday 2 is great once you get past the whole walking around the house and the quickest and driest shower scene ever at the beginning. Good on Jason for making sure the kettle doesn't boil dry, though. Yeah, she does get out of that shower bone dry, doesn't she? All right, okay, let's kick off the next vote. Let's see what this is. Dead and Buried. Good movie. Very good movie, but I suspect it won't be tickling Halloween 2 anytime soon. Okay, released on November the 13th, 1981. Initially named Look Alive in its initial previews in the September of that year, but then they changed the name to Dead and Buried. A budget of between 3 and 5 million. Box office of approximately 216,000. That was the total gross in the US, so it wasn't too much of a hit. 50 seconds left, folks. Directed by Gary A. Sherman. In a small town, tourists are murdered by locals, and then the victims seemingly return to life, blending horror and surreal mystery. A cult favorite today, initially a flop, but later praised for its eerie atmosphere and unsettling tone. 30 seconds left. Memorable moments are the disturbing reveal of corpses returning to normal life, playing with identity and the reality in a chilling way. It is a good movie. Wasn't it like Dan O'Bannon who wrote this or something? Pretty sure it was. Three, 2, 1, 0. The vote is over. And it's third tier, third place in third tier. 13% of you put it in the top 2, 27% in the second tier, 53% in the third tier, and then one of you put it in 5th place. Only 15 voted on that one, folks. Only 15 voted. Let's have a look. Dad says, I've seen this, but really don't remember it so much. So I won't vote, but I did enjoy it. Robert Ford said the film faced numerous production problems, including the production company changing hands 3 times, which led to the destruction of the director's original vision and cuts to the original film. Yeah, Paul Rose says, enjoyable watch. That needle in the eye gives you the heebie-jeebies. It certainly does. That's when the guy's all bandaged up, isn't it? Dave in the house. Is Dave here? Hey, Dave. Yeah, good stream earlier, and congratulations on getting to your, what was it now? 20,000 Canadian. Jay Diamond says, I don't think I've seen this, Darren, so no opinion. No worries, Jay Diamond. Marisol says, Darren, this movie traumatized me. The ending blew me away. I just watched it on Monday. Excellent. I'm glad you went through so many of these films. That's so cool. Welcome to the group. Just watched your live alias earlier, says Robert Ford to Dave. Myers Fan 73 says, I love Dead and Buried. Still have my withdrawn original Thorn EMI video. Lisa Blount was in it. She was indeed. Lisa Blount from Officer and a Gentleman she was in, wasn't she? Let me put the link in there again so people can play along. 66 of you here at the moment. Colin says, so underrated, Dead and Buried. I always watch it as a double feature with The Fog. Great seaside town horrors. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see a poster for, like, I saw a poster the other day, which was a double bill of The Fog and The Beyond, but I think there might have been a double bill of Dead and Buried and The Beyond as well. Because I was looking at The Fog and The Beyond poster as a double bill, and I thought, yeah, that would look quite cool in here. But then when I saw the price on it, I thought, yeah, maybe I'll take a rain check on that one. Okay, let's kick off the next vote. And it is Dark Night of the Scarecrow. What a great movie. TV movie. Premiered on CBS in the US on October the 24th, 1981. I'm going to say that this came on TV in the UK in about 82, 83. And I remember watching it when it first came on. Made for TV film. No box office data at all, because obviously it wasn't released theatrically. 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Frank De Felitta. In a small town, a mentally challenged man is brutally killed by vigilantes. Afterward, a scarecrow begins haunting and avenging his death. Widely regarded as a spooky masterpiece, famed for its atmosphere and emotional depth, especially for a TV movie. Memorable moments are the emotionally charged opening and haunting tension, and the image of the scarecrow itself has become iconic. It is a really cool film. I have it on Blu-ray back there. Yeah, I remember it well. And the way that he befriends this young girl in the film, does this scarecrow. Charles Durning, I think, was in it as well. Was it Charles Durning? I think it was Charles Durning. 7 seconds, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote's over. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. 2 of you put it in the top tier. 18% of you. 55% of you put it in the second tier. 18% of you in third. 9% in fourth. And nobody put it in fifth. It finished in the second tier. In fourth place in the second tier, which is pretty cool. Could have done with a few more votes, I think. I'm guessing not a lot of people have seen this movie, but it is well worth a watch. If you ever get the chance to see it, it's well worth a watch. Let me see what people are saying in the chat. Myers Mad says, Halloween 78, The Fog, Assault on Precinct 13 are the 3 best Carpenter movies in that order. No Thing? I agree, those are all great movies, but, The Thing has to be up in the top 3. Feature Peeper says, yeah, same here. Love The Fog. Stan Winston's makeup designs are amazing. Oh, in Dead and Buried. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Paul Rose says, I have a framed original double bill poster of Alien and The Fog in black and green, rated X. Fantastic. Scarecrows are creepy as hell, says Rick M. if done as well as this film does it, yeah, there's some great moments with the Scarecrow in this. And you don't really fully, if I remember rightly, you don't fully see it until the very end. The film was shot entirely in the dark, and the pumpkins smashed by the tractor were actually props, not real, in the final chase sequence. Okay. Reese Wilson says, I'm starting to realize how very little I've seen from 1981. Wow, there's a great old list here for you to catch up on, Reese. Some good, well, you can see it. I mean, it's so much more successful than other episodes. Well, the 1980, because everything's in the top 3 tiers here. Myers Fan 73 says, in the top 5 made-for-TV horror movies, brilliant cast. Yeah, I mean, obviously Jewel sits at the top, but I would agree with you that, yeah, this is kind of up there. The film was shot entirely in the dark, and okay, we've message must have come through twice. Paul says, I have this on disc, never watched it. There was a series, right? Didn't realize it was Winston though. Dead and Buried is Winston. I think, are you talking about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow? I'm pretty sure Dead and Buried is Stan Winston that did the effects on that. I don't think he did them on this. Rubber Gorilla Masks, Neil says, I adore this film. Maybe because, one second, I've lost the message. Maybe because it was so good for a TV movie, which were mostly shit at the time. Excuse me. And it really surprised me, he says. Brandon says, Marlon Brando's sister played the mother in this. I believe this might have been one of her last roles. Okay. And Myers Fan 73 says there's a great 88 films Blu-ray release for anyone that's not seen it. There is indeed. I think I have it on my shelf there. I think I might have it twice. Kenneth Irwin says, would you put Charles Durning in with Burt Young and Dennis Franz? No, I think Charles Durning's always a bit more clean cut than those hairy men. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, Gargoyles, and Original It are my 3 favorite TV movies, Darren. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Gargoyles. I don't know if I've seen Gargoyles. Okay. We have our next film, which is Cannibal Ferox. I have an idea where this one's going. Release date 1981. No actual date to be exact. Umberto Lenzi directed this one. Music composed by Roberto Donati. Giovanni Lombardo Radici, Lorraine DeSalle, Robert Kerman, Danilo Mattei, Zara Caroya, and Venantino Venati. I think I got that right. Anthropology students travel to the Amazon to debunk cannibalism myths, only for their own brutality and cruelty to trigger horrific revenge from the indigenous tribes. 43 seconds left, folks. Infamous for its extremity, either reviled or revered in the Italian cannibal genre, noted for its shock value and controversial content. Shockingly memorable moments, shockingly graphic scenes, hangings from breasts, castration in close-up, and execution of tribal revenge etched into gore cinema lore. Yeah, there's a kind of nasty moment where a guy gets his tackle cut off and then eaten immediately after. But yeah, the bit where the girl's hung by the Norks isn't particularly nice either. Okay, so Cannibal Ferox currently sits in last place, the head of the 4th tier. 2 of you, 15% of the vote, put this in first place. 23% in second, 8% in third, 46% of you voted it in fourth, and 8% of you voted it in last place. Okay, here we go. So Robert Ford said the film has been released under several titles, including Make Them Die Slowly in the United States and Woman from Deep River in Australia. Kingslayer says, is this as bad as Cannibal Holocaust? Dear. I would say it's... Is it as bad? I don't think it is. I think Cannibal Holocaust is the kind of granddaddy of this sort of stuff. Cannibal Ferox is better than Cannibal Holocaust. Did you ever see the Stacy Keach, Ursula Andress cannibal film? No, I didn't. Ferox is just horrible film. It's something I'm never going to watch again. Ferox was okay. Missed the mark a little for me. Jay Diamond says, I've never seen this one. It didn't sound interesting to me, so I never watched it. Paul says, well, you were right. 5th place for me and no wish to watch it again. No, I haven't either. It's one of those that I saw. I think your bloody cousin got it for me, in all honesty, Paul. I think that's where I saw it when I was probably in my teens. I don't think I've seen it since. I know that Grindhouse releasing, I believe, did they bring out like this on Blu-ray with like a vomit bag or something like that? Daz says, Ferox I thought was great first time, but rewatching it went down significantly further for me. The sequel with Meg Ryan is better than Cannibal Botox. Kingslayer says, only cannibal film I like is Green Inferno. Yeah. Yeah, they're all pretty naff, aren't they, to be honest? Although a lot of them, like, as we were saying last week, Holocaust is actually not, it's quite an interesting film, and has a great score as well. This one I just think is just a kind of poor imitation. And Apocalypse with John Saxon, I remember that as well. Yeah. Myers Mad says, getting your tackle cut off is no biggie. We've all been there, gents. Paul says, yeah, he probably got it for both of us. Yeah. I mean, the artwork's interesting. I mean, as a piece of art, it's nasty, but it's quite striking on the poster there. Yeah, Leanna Beveridge, vomit bags as memorabilia is a nice touch. I seem to remember it came with a vomit bag on the Blu-ray release. Bone Tomahawk's a great film. Reese, that moment in the film, the Kurt Russell movie, that moment when that scene happens is just like jaw-dropping. Hey, Neil, good to see you. Right, let's kick off that final vote. And it is Bloody Birthday, for those of you that have seen it. April the 28th, 1981. 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. No data available for the box office on this film. I'm guessing it didn't do too well. Directed by Ed Hunt. 60 seconds left to vote. Music composed by Arlen Ober, Susan Strasberg, Jose Ferrer, Laurie Lethin, Melinda Cordell, Julie Brown, Billy Jane, and Andrew Freeman star in this. 3 children born during a solar eclipse begin murdering townsfolk on their 10th birthday, seemingly driven by a mysterious eclipse-born malevolence. That kind of sounds a bit like children. What do they call it? Village of the Damned. 27 seconds left. A campy cult slasher, it's so bad it's good aesthetic, and overly dramatic murders earn it both fondness and mockery. The memorable moments are the concept of innocent-looking children committing chillingly violent murders, both disturbing and bizarrely entertaining. I have seen this. It's a long time ago. I am not going to vote because I can't remember it, but the voting is up, and it finishes last on the 3rd tier. Only 8 people voted for this. I'm guessing not many people have seen it. I only put it in here because Richard last week said, where's Bloody Birthday in 1980? It actually came out in 81, in April of 81. So I put it in here, and he's not in here today. So hopefully he sees this after the fact and realizes that I did put this in here for him. Nobody voted it for the top tier. 25% of you voted it for the second tier. 63% of you voted it for the third tier, and 13% of you voted it for the fourth tier. And that's where we end up. That is exactly where we end up. So, in first place, Halloween 2. In second place, American Werewolf in London. Third place, Friday the 13th Part 2. Fourth place, The Evil Dead. Fifth place, My Bloody Valentine. Sixth place, The Howling. Seventh, The Burning. Eighth, we're now in tier 2. Eighth place, Happy Birthday to Me. Ninth place, The Prowler. House by the Cemetery at 10. Dark Night of the Scarecrow at 11. The Entity at 12. The Funhouse at 13. Dead and Buried at 14. Just Before Dawn at 15. The Omen 3, Final Conflict at 16. The Beyond at 17. Bloody Birthday at 18. Cannibal Ferox at 19. And there was one glitch at the start where I lost Wolfen. So we're actually only voting on 19 today, folks. Wolfen fell off. I don't know what happened to it. The screen glitched and then I lost Wolfen. So that would have been in there somewhere. I would imagine that was tier 2 or 3. But wouldn't have made a great deal. I wouldn't have thought it would have troubled that top tier at all. But yeah, Halloween 2 is your favorite movie, horror movie of 1981. There we go. And in terms of the ones that I voted on, those are the ones that I remembered to vote on. I put American Werewolf first, Halloween 2 second, Prowler third, Dead and Buried fourth, Dark Knight Scarecrow fifth, Funhouse sixth, Omen seventh, Just Before Dawn 8, and Cannibal Ferox in last position. But I forgot to vote for a few of them, so we're not going to worry about that. Okay, let me just go back to... still got a few minutes here, so we'll go back to the main screen here. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Yeah, Road Games was 81 as well. With Stacey Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. I have that up on the shelf up there. It's a good movie. Good evening all, says Neil. Thanks for joining us again, Neil. Cannibal Holocaust is the most horrific film, says Robert Ford. Bloody Birthday is good, but I just hate brat kids in horror. The Brood is good. For creepy kids, The Brood is very good. Brandon Collins says, I love Cannibal Holocaust. Neil Tambo says, oh my God, I never saw that before. Paul Rose says, I never got the whole cannibal fad. There were loads for a while, all just grubby to me. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. Evil children slashers is a subgenre that should have been bigger. Jay Diamond says, I saw this one for the first time last year, Darren. It's pretty good. There's a twist in the end that's pretty cool, and the car chase scene is wild. Oh, you're talking about Bloody Birthday? Okay. Paul Rose says, don't remember seeing this. Okay. Robert Ford says, while many horror films are filmed in the dark, a large portion of Bloody Birthday was shot in daylight, likely due to the limitations of working with child actors. I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so. Although now they just shoot day for night, don't they? They just shoot in the day and then regrade it as night. Feast Your Peepers, Colin says, great little movie set in and around the streets of South Pasadena. Some of the shots have an almost Halloween vibe. Looks almost like it's set in the same universe. Brandon says, man, seeing The Beyond coming in third from last makes me question my dedication to sparkle motion. That's true. That is true. Third from last. Yeah, shocking that The Beyond is so low. Mad says, as long as Halloween 2 wins, I can rest easy. Everybody, look, Colin, it's criminal that Beyond is so low. Lots more 80s goodness to come if you continue. Oh yeah, no, I'm going to carry on with this. I'm going to make it my goal to go through the 80s with this because it's my favorite decade for horror. So may as well do it. And you guys seem to enjoy it as well. With how many we got? We had 74 people in here at one time. Robert Ford says, bring on 1982. And Chester Franklin says, H2 rules, definitely the best sequel in the franchise. And Paul says, I own Wolfen, but remember very little about it. It's a good watch. It is a good watch. It's kind of, it's nothing to do with werewolves. It's more to do with, I think isn't it something to do with property built on an Indian burial ground or something like that, if I remember rightly. It's a while since I've watched it now. Myers Mad says, the Beyond belongs mid-tier. It's like comparing me to Pamela Anderson in her prime. I'm decent. She was smoking. I think had more people seen the Beyond, it would have been at the top. I think so as well. I think so. Chester says, this was a fantastic stream, Darren. Thank you, Chester. Neil also says, cheers, Darren. Great fun as always. No worries, mate. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you in a few weeks. We'll have a drink in Manchester. Stephen says, thanks for another great show, Darren. No worries. Myers Matt says, Darren, best stream yet. I'm a minute ahead in Aberdeen. Such is the time difference between Scotland and England. So I thank you for keeping me awake. It's way past my bedtime, so we'll bid you farewell. Thank you, Myers Matt. Speak to you soon. See you later, buddy. And Jay Diamond says, Darren, how do you feel about Jaws earning $10 million more to its total 50 years later? Yeah, it's kind of a touchy subject because, the company I work for, we released a film last weekend and we got beaten by a 50-year-old shark. So, yeah. But no, I'm happy for Jaws, and I'm happy for all those people that went out and saw it. Everybody on my socials was going out to see it. It was amazing. Daz says, fun stream, Darren. Look forward to more of these. Yeah, more coming. I'm going to try and improve them each time, add more things in. Like I say, I want to maybe get to the stage where as we actually, while we're talking about the movies, we'll play the trailer behind me in the background or something. I'll figure out how to do that. Lee Wilson says, rewatched The Burning just recently. It's a lot better than I can remember. It's just a pity that some of those camera shots stink of wine. Weinstein, you mean? Weintraub? Even though I was baby in the 80s, hang on a minute, one second. Jay Dammer says, even though I was a baby in the 80s, that's still my favorite decade too. Yeah, absolutely. Shamrock says, I contributed 9 million of that 10 million. What movie did you release, Darren? Sony released Caught Stealing last weekend. Feast Your Peepers says, superb stream. I love these tier rankings. Roll on 82. Paul Rose says, yeah, I have to be up early, but who needs sleep? It's for wimps. Yeah. What is it Sam Elliott says? I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead. Robert Ford says, great vid, Darren. Can't wait for your next live. Time for bed now since I've been up since 5 a.m. this morning, but could not miss this. Good night from me from London, UK. Good night, Robert. And I think that's probably my time as well. It is 10 past 12. This one's gone on a little longer than I expected. But it was a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody, for joining us at this late hour. And thank you, all those of you in the US who joined as well as you're kind of having your dinner. We'll be back next week with 1982. But tomorrow over on TSL Movie Podcast, Frank and I are going to be discussing 1994. It's not horror. There will be horror in there, but it's the best and worst of 1994. So if you're not yet lined up with the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast or TSL Movie Podcast, I think the link might be down below in the description here. Click on that and you'll see that tomorrow at 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be going live with the best and worst of 1994. So check that out. In the meantime, I shall see you all soon. Thanks again for joining us, folks. I really do appreciate it. It's really cool doing this with so many people. And yeah, I'll see you next Thursday. Cheers.